Language and word origins. Which female name begins a verb that means to indulge, spoil, or pamper a person excessively? Mollycoddle. What four-letter historical neckpiece has a name that sounds like it might cause physical irritation or a rash? Rough. What seven-letter word used by Oscar Wilde in Lady Windermere's Fan serves as a synonym for boring or tedious? Tedious. What specific word for a miser or stingy person leaves absolutely no wiggle room for generosity? Scrooge. What traditional word for a cemetery worker functions as both a modern job title and the name of an iconic monster truck? Grave digger. U.S. history and politics. Which future U.S. president succeeded William Colby as the director of the Central Intelligence Agency in 1976? George H.W. Bush. What mythical place or era serves as the subtitle for Bill O'Reilly's historical book, Killing Kennedy? Camelot. Which Ivy League university counts both Tiffany Trump and Donald Trump Jr. as alumni alongside their father? University of Pennsylvania. Which U.S. president had a region of Paraguay named after him after arbitrating a land dispute in the country's favor in 1878? Rutherford B. Hayes. What alliterative three-step fire safety technique is abbreviated as SDR to help save individuals whose clothing catches fire? Stop, drop, and roll. Who was the second wife and first lady of President Woodrow Wilson, following the passing of Ellen Wilson? Edith Wilson. Who was sworn into office in 1990 as the very first black mayor of New York City? David Dinkins. Which U.S. First Lady passed away in Canton, Ohio, in the year 1907? Ida Saxton McKinley. Academic and student orgs. Which major state university's campus saw the 1998 founding of Kappa Phi Gamma, the nation's first South Asian women's Greek letter organization? University of Texas at Austin. Which Big Ten university, formerly part of the Big Eight, counts Warren Buffett, Willa Cather, and John J. Pershing among its alumni? University of Nebraska, Lincoln. Agriculture and nature. In the agricultural fields of Iowa and Nebraska, what specific part of a corn plant are workers hired to remove? Tassel. What type of white radish is grated in Japanese culinary preparation and frequently served as a staple alongside fresh sashimi? Daikon. What specific bird from the heron family is a long-legged, long-necked wading bird often found near wetlands? Egret. Music and pop culture. Which 2014 cinematic Marvel soundtrack features the classic hit songs Hooked on a Feeling and Come and Get Your Love? Guardians of the Galaxy. Which British pop group famously sang the lyrics, If You Want to Be My Lover? Followed by, I'll Tell You What I Want, What I Really, Really Want. Spice Girls. Which prominent fashion and entertainment magazine has hosted a legendary, exclusive after-party following the Academy Awards since 1994? Vanity Fair. Which British singer achieved overnight global fame after performing I Dreamed a Dream on Britain's Got Talent? Susan Boyle. Which multi-talented stage and screen actor starred on Broadway as Max Bialystock in The Producers and Walter Burns in The Front Page? Nathan Lane. Which Georgia-born rapper and producer turned up the energy with a massive live performance of the party anthem, Turned Down for What? Lil Jon. Which American punk rock icon is famous for his high-energy solo tracks like Lust for Life and Candy? Iggy Pop. Literature and theater. Which famous character famously states, I can resist everything except temptation, in Oscar Wilde's classic play, Lady Windermere's Fan? Lord Darlington. Which specific title bird does the narrator plead with to leave his loneliness unbroken and quit the bust above his chamber door? The Raven. Which haunted literary structure is investigated by psychic researcher Dr. Montague in a classic horror novel by Shirley Jackson? Hill House. Which literary characters include the con men known as the Duke and the Dauphin, alongside the civilizing Widow Douglas? Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Which 1949 Rodgers and Hammerstein musical won a Pulitzer Prize and starred Mary Martin as the character Nellie Forbush? South Pacific. Which famous character wonders about her career choices in a special two-part episode titled, What's My Line? Before embracing her supernatural destiny? Buffy Summers. What classic idiom, derived from an Aesop fable about a trickster shepherd, describes raising a false alarm and losing public trust? Crying Wolf. Who is the male protagonist and title half of William Shakespeare's tragic 1597 romantic play? Romeo. Sports and games. Which simple, classic childhood paper and pencil game is universally represented by the shorthand XS and OS? Tic-tac-toe. What famous stadium address in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, serves as the home ground for the NFL Steelers? 100 Art Rooney Avenue. At what baseball position did minor leaguer Dave Bresnahan famously throw a potato into left field to trick a runner in 1987? Catcher. What specific form of rock climbing, which is now an Olympic sport, involves scaling short routes without the use of ropes or safety harnesses? Bouldering. Ancient history and mythology. Which ancient soldier and historian penned the foundational works Anabasis and Hellenica, which remain primary sources for Greek history? Xenophon. Which ancient general formed the first triumvirate alongside Julius Caesar and Marcus Licinius Crassus around 60 BC? Pompey the Great. In Hindu Vedic tradition, Which four-faced creator deity has a single cosmic year that equals more than 3.1 trillion human years? Brahma. What specific term was used to describe the specialized archers who served within the military forces of the Roman army? Sagittarii. Cinema and Hollywood. Which 51st Dates actress made a memorable appearance on the reality television series, First Dates? Drew Barrymore. Which British actor plays the title character and his cloned iterations in Bong Joon-ho's 2025 science fiction film, Mickey 17? Robert Pattinson. Which Oscar-winning actress landed an early television break playing a high school mascot on an episode of the detective series, Monk? Jennifer Lawrence. What 2005 comedy film sequel starring Sandra Bullock was subtitled, Armed and Fabulous? Miss Congeniality 2. Which 2000 survival drama film stars Tom Hanks as a stranded FedEx Systems analyst named Chuck Noland trapped on an island for 4 years? Castaway. Which talented equine star featured in the film, Seabiscuit, before playing Joey in the World War I epic War Horse? Finder. Global geography. What combined classification describes a colorful tropical bird of the Americas and a person who practices an ancient, earth-centered magic religion? Toucan Wiccan. Which major city on New Zealand's South Island was given its faith-inspired name by founder John Robert Godley? Christchurch. What is the capital city of the Falkland Islands, a self-governing British territory home to over 200 islands and a massive penguin population? Stanley. Which major island in the Tuscan archipelago is famous for hosting the exiled French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte from 1814 to 1815? Elba. Which capital city of China was established by Ming Emperor Chengzu after he moved the imperial court away from Nanjing in the 15th century? Beijing. British royalty. Which prominent international activist famously challenged the Women First maritime custom by demanding equal rights for women on both land and sea? Emmeline Pankhurst. Which royal residence hosted the 2002 Party at the Palace concert to celebrate Queen Elizabeth II's historic Golden Jubilee? Buckingham Palace. What somber Latin phrase did Queen Elizabeth II use to describe the year 1992 following family marriages breaking down and a fire at Windsor Castle? Annus Horribilis. Whose handwritten engagement diary for June 5, 1940, included the historic matter-of-fact appointments 12:30 Cabinet and 6:30 the King? Winston Churchill. Home and lifestyle. Which traditional style of Japanese bedding consists of a flexible mattress laid directly onto a woven tatami mat? Futon. Comic book lore. What is the recognizable last name of Alfred, the loyal butler and confidant to billionaire Bruce Wayne in DC Comics? Pennyworth. Science and meteorology. What terrifying meteorological classification did Tropical Storm Tip upgrade to before tearing through the western Pacific with 190 miles per hour winds in 1979? Super typhoon. What economic term describes a rapid, uncontrollable increase in consumer prices, such as the severe case Hungary suffered after World War II? Hyperinflation. What biological connection explains why individuals feel a fluttery, butterfly sensation in their gut rather than their head when they are nervous? Gut-brain axis. European history. Which high-security prison in the Berlin area held high-profile war criminals like Rudolf Hess and Albert Speer following World War II? Spandau Prison. Mixology and beverage. Which classic Cuban cocktail did author Ernest Hemingway famously enjoy drinking by the dozen at Havana's El Floridita bar, especially when flavored with grapefruit? Daiquiri. Football slang. What compound phrase serves as both a common kicking play on the American gridiron and a traditional glass serving size for a beer? Punt and pint. South American history. Which Irish-Chilean military leader served as Chile's primary liberator and its very first supreme director following independence from Spain? Bernardo O'Higgins. Classical music. Which French romantic composer wrote the highly innovative, dramatic, and bombastic 1830 program piece, Symphonie Fantastique? Hector Berlioz. Sci-fi lore. What is the name of the ominous, self-aware artificial intelligence network that serves as the primary antagonist in the Terminator film franchise? Skynet. Fantasy fiction. At the Wizarding World of Harry Potter theme park, what is the name of the classic tavern where guests can dine, matching the establishment in the books? The Three Broomsticks. Modern coffee culture. What is the traditional Italian name for a shot of espresso that is lightly spotted or marked with a small dollop of frothed milk? Café macchiato. Geography of Africa. Which Portuguese explorer became the first European to locate and scout the mouth of the Congo River in 1482? Diogo Chao. Olympic history. In which historic Mediterranean city were the very first modern Olympic Games held in the year 1896? Athens. Holiday folklore. Which of the four distinct spirits that visit Ebenezer Scrooge in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol specifically represents the power of human memory? Ghost of Christmas Past. Classic television and pop culture. Which classic fantasy sitcom features Samantha Stevens and her prank-pulling, funkle, Uncle Arthur? Bewitched. Which popular TLC reality television series features brides-to-be searching for their perfect wedding gown with help from experts? Say Yes to the Dress. Which 2024 historical drama film titled September 5th uses real footage of sportscaster Jim McKay detailing the terrorist tragedy at this European city's 1972 Olympic Games. Munich. Which major American airline uses Atlanta as its primary global hub alongside international hubs like Seoul? Delta Airlines. Cold War history. Remnants of what iconic European structure might reminisce about the historic public celebration that began there on November 9, 1898? Berlin Wall. American monuments and leadership. Which U.S. President's memorial on the National Mall features a massive steel tapestry representing the D-Day assault site of Pointe du Hoc? Dwight D. Eisenhower. Festivals and folklore. Which New Mexico City has hosted an annual UFO festival since 1996, drawing both extraterrestrial believers and skeptics alike? Roswell. Fine arts and crafts. Famed indigenous artist George Agopuk used seal skin as a unique creative medium to depict traditional life in which U.S. state? Alaska. Literary mysteries and frauds. Which notorious 1971 anti-drug cautionary book was exposed in the investigative text Unmask Alice as a forged teenage diary written by Utah housewife Beatrice Sparks? Go Ask Alice. Outdoor recreation. What specific type of two-wheeled vehicle allows two riders to travel together by pedaling in perfect synchronization? Tandem bicycle. Aviation history. Which massive wide-body commercial airliner was manufactured by Boeing and displayed to the general public for the very first time in 1968? Boeing 747. Idioms and language. What three-word alliterative phrase describes a tight, narrow path of strict honesty, morality, and virtue? Straight and narrow. What specific word borrowed from the French language refers to an underlying feeling of suspicion or mistrust rather than a type of soup? Soupçon. What single word can mean a standalone strand of a textile fiber or a chronological series of linked online newsgroup messages? Thread. Science and periodic table. What are the only two chemical elements on the entire periodic table whose English names end with the letter C? Zinc and bismuth. Earth science and green energy. What specific type of renewable energy, deriving its name from the Greek words for earth and heat, is used to heat most households in Iceland? Geothermal energy. Biblical studies and tradition. Which Old Testament figure refused the advances of Potiphar's wife when she commanded him to lie with me, resulting in his wrongful imprisonment? Joseph. Mathematics and time. Exactly how many standard individual minutes are contained within a single, non-leap calendar year? 525,600. Marine biology. Leopard sharks thrive inside massive 28-foot underwater forest exhibits dedicated to which large, rootless marine algae that relies heavily on sunlight? Kelp. Religious history. According to the teachings of Latter-day Saint founder Joseph Smith, which angel guided him to the hidden golden plates that became the Book of Mormon? Moroni. Modern politics. Which American politician was elected mayor of South Bend, Indiana, in 2011 and later married Chasen Glesman in 2018? Pete Buttigieg. Music history. What specific genre-defining word is represented by the letter R in the popular musical shorthand abbreviation R&B? Rhythm. Maritime history. Exactly how many historic global treasure voyages did the famous Ming-era Chinese Admiral Zheng He lead across the Indian Ocean? 7. Global geography. Located on the scenic Seltjarnarnes Peninsula, what is the northernmost capital city of any sovereign nation? Reykjavik. Which body of water, referred to as the East Sea in South Korea, is highly unusual because it experiences practically no oceanic tides? Sea of Japan.